Hello. Good afternoon. Michael Wynn, Chief Digital Officer of Digital Ops, a division of RB Oppenheim Associates. Thanks for joining in today on the Digital Marketing Video and Podcast series where we talk about digital strategies and tactics to help grow your business. Today is going to be part 3, the final part in what we started last week, in a series called The Social Web Effect of 2020. Gleaning insight from the Russian Facebook campaigns of 2016. So real quick recap for those of you who may have missed last week's episode 1 and 2. Really, this whole campaign, as reported by the House Intelligence Committee of Congress of the United States of America, reported that during an 18-month period from 2015 to 2017, the Russian government, through the Kremlin, essentially launched an entire campaign through a company known as the IRA, or the Internet Research Agency. And during that time, deployed over 3,500 Facebook ads, launched over 470 Facebook page accounts, fake accounts, over 80,000 organic posts on Facebook, and purchased those ads with a budget of roughly $100,000 with the sole purpose to sow discord amongst America through inflaming passions on a range of divisive issues. I mean, they were really attacking all the different components or subject matter topics of the candidates that were running for the US election, and really wanting to divide the country. That was their ultimate goal. So we talked about in the first episode that, with the information that was released by the House Intelligence Committee, we now have nearly 9 gigabytes of screen captures of content. Not only what were the visuals, what were some of the texts that were included in the ad, what were some of the targeting measurements and variables, whether it was demographics or whether it was social graphics, geographics. That's the information that's included in the report. And you can go back and visit our website at rboa.com/blog and pick one of the social web effect of 2020 blog posts where we have links to those articles and information for you to see. But what we really found was that essentially, we can take this and look at it as a playbook if we flip it almost upside down, and rather than using this as a playbook for malicious intent, what could businesses learn from these strategies and deploy them in an authentic and honest and straightforward way? And I think there are some real insights. So just to recap, number one, is, we talked about in day 1 is make sure you understand what matters most to your audience, right? Really understand that. And for sure, the Russians really understood what was important to Americans, and they really, really hammered against it. And then producing the volume of content with ads. I mean, we've talked about that in length on the show. So we know what we're talking about there when we're creating multiple pieces of creative against very specific topic matters that are of importance to your target audience. And then make sure that you're leveraging retargeting so that you can sort of move with your clients or prospects through the decision tree as they're thinking about moving from awareness into consideration and then finally into conversion. In part 2, we talked about understanding their passions and really personalizing it. We talked about localizing your content creative, so very specifically mentioning the city or the town, or very specifics about the content that you put together, because when you present that material in a contextual and localized framework, that really has a chance to hammer home with your target audience. Number three, obviously, on day two, when we talked about the interest-based, where they really observed online behaviors and targeted those with very specific content for topics or industries or age-specific programming. We mentioned about BuzzFeed and why they included that. And then the use of exclusions, I thought, was also an interesting play that we talked about for day two. So in day three, what we're going to talk about is really three things again. And one of the things that we haven't talked about, which was a huge deal, was the use of and the practice of deception by false amplifiers. This is the exact wording used, especially with Facebook, as well as the House Intelligence Committee. So basically, what is false amplifiers? Well, basically, it was fake accounts created on Facebook to perpetuate and to incite more and more activities that, and they were, trust me, I mean, it's almost like spies, on Facebook who had whole backstories and photos. Like, they created these whole personas who were very interested in topic A or topic B or what have you. And so, that was really part of the strategic plan, was to use these false amplifiers to sort of help get behind the ad buy and sort of push the viral component by, commenting and sharing and liking, so that it looked like the ad was really getting traction. Now, if we flip that upside down, what we've talked about in the marketing funnel, which this is completely let's call it a white hat practice, if you will, the good guys use this, is to really think about and identify and empower your brand ambassadors. So as we talk about that funnel, where we talk about, people go from awareness into consideration, into conversion, and then loyalty, and then lastly, as an ambassador or an advocate for your brand, that's what we're really talking about. They created these fake amplifiers or ambassadors. Well, on the flip side, you have real ambassadors, people who love your product, love your service. And, for companies who can put together a ambassador program where you basically empower, not only identify, but also empower, your brand ambassadors to speak on your behalf, to help perpetuate brand awareness for the good work and the great products that your brand offers. This is the exact tactic of the strategy that was observed in that Russian campaign of 2016. So, and again, the idea here was that they were trying to comment and share. Now, it's also mentioned that usually in the political world, there are incentives for these false amplifiers to take action. Now, again, if we deploy a authentic and more a positive take on this strategy, is you can build an ambassador program and provide incentives. Maybe you give them a free dinner, or you give them free swag for promoting the latest piece of content that you have. That really is a very, there's a great reward in that for your ambassadors as well as for your brand. And it can be a really wise use of your ad budget to incentivize and create a program where there's a monetary value for your ambassadors to do the work. Number two is they had a identified coordination of these false amplifiers, and the coordination had to do with timing and content. So they were specifically fed specific content and given specific times when that content was to be released. And this was more organic, or they would let them know, hey, this ad's going to run, this is where it's going to be. You need to go to this page and be able to share it. And so the coordination of that was, again, a very successful tactic. Now, again, let's flip that. We want to, again, empower your brand ambassadors to be able to have insights, almost exclusive content, because that gives them a real sense of a VIP for your brand. So if you can put together, again, sort of that ambassador program where you're providing them with exclusive first look, content, whether it's a new product or a new service or, just news that's coming out. That's a great way to, again, build in momentum, your brand ambassadors so that they can be positive amplifiers, right? Help spread that viral spread of what the content that you're putting out. So again, they were trying to assemble and attract other like-minded individuals, through this sort of Russian campaign of discord. Flip that to your business, and you want to attract like-minded people who want to buy your products or services, which is why you want to use and create an ambassador program for people who have purchased, maybe they've purchased multiple times, they've renewed multiple times. These are really people who love your brand and love what you represent. And so when they go out on the offensive and start sharing and talking about their experience and how much they love it, what are they going to do? They're going to attract people like them who are looking for the similar product or service, right? And again, that is a very successful strategy, which really at the end of the day, what we're talking about is influencer marketing. I do think it's interesting that Facebook came out with essentially a influencer marketplace where you can specifically go and look at people with 500 or a million plus followers, whether that's on Facebook or other platforms, but specifically Facebook has this area that you can go to, and it's almost like putting out a contract to say, hey, I'm looking for someone who has interest in, golfing or hospitality or whatever your brand represents. And you say, this is what we're looking for. Here's the content. Here's our budget if you're interested. And so essentially, it's instead of the, one-to-one, you have this opportunity to go one-to-many with these influencers who have a following. And then they can pick and choose. Oh, like, yeah, I can totally get behind a product or service that represents that. So that is a program through Facebook. If you want to learn more about that, just do a quick Google search for Facebook Collab Manager. You'll find some interesting information on there. Guys, I hope this series has been enlightening for you as it has been for us, as we've kind of gone through and dissected the Russian Facebook ad campaign between 2015 and 2017. I applaud Facebook for their efforts to crack down on fake news, fake accounts, false amplifiers. I recently came across something where they had identified over 30,000 fake malicious accounts amongst France, users in France, and shut those accounts down. So I think that they're definitely on the right track. I think their efforts to certify and verify advertisers who are looking to put out advertisements around national issues and or political issues is definitely a step in the right direction to help promote accountability for their ad platform. And again, in no means or fashion do I or the company that I represent agree in any way with the objective of what the Russians were doing in 2016, but I do think there's value in looking at the playbook and why did they deploy those things, you know, and how might you learn from that, glean insight from those tactics and strategies, but in a positive and more, you know, a professional way, and not trying to be deceptive or divisive with your content. So I think brands can learn from the mistakes of others. So I think that's something to learn from. Guys, thank you so much for your time today. My name is Michael Wynn. I am the Chief Digital Officer of Digital Ops, a division of RB Oppenheim Associates. Thanks for joining in. I hope you have a great week. We look forward to checking in tomorrow.